Now we will look at the Luggage and Cohort models, and we will see the differences between these two models. Luggage theory assumes activation of only a single lexical item after the threshold value is achieved. In contrast, the cohort model assumes that multiple word candidates are processed in parallel. Before we move on to the explanation of this, I would like to explain that Luggage theory or model is based on the assumptions that listeners have vast number of specialized recognition units and that each unit can recognize one word or specific one word. The cohort model shows that the audio and visual input in form of hearing or reading a word is mapped onto a word in the hearer's lexicon. So let's try to see what the Luggage theory further explains in contrast to the cohort model. We will now discuss the Luggage model. It was proposed by Morton in 1969 and it is considered as the one of the earliest activation models. Now in this model, each word or morpheme in the lexicon is represented as Luggage, which specifies the word's various attributes, semantic, orthographic, phonological, and so on. The Luggage is activated in either of two ways, by sensory input or by contextual information. So these are the two ways through which this Luggage is activated. Now consider this sensory route first. As orthographic or phonological features of the input stimulus are detected, then they are matched to the Luggage. The Luggage functions as a scoreboard or counter. Now it functions as a scoreboard or some kind of counter, and when the counter rises above a pre-designated threshold, the item is recognized. With regard to contextual information, the semantic and syntactic structure of a sentence may influence the activation. So in the contextual information, two areas can influence. One is the semantic and the other is syntactic. Now looking at this sentence where her closest relative, where his closest relative was appointed as her legal guardian. Now we can anticipate the word guardian due to the expectations created by earlier words in sentence. The activation of the earlier words influences the Luggage for the final word, temporarily lowering its threshold. So thus it is easier to recognize guardian in this context than if presented in isolation. So if this has been presented in isolation, it would not have made any sense. Now, in order to understand this, we are relying on the words that preceded this information. In the original version of Luggage model, which was introduced by Morton, the information about the association between different words is not contained in Luggage system itself, but rather in a separate cognitive system. But looking at the sensory and contextual matches, this increased the same counter. Now when sensory features are detected, the corresponding word will be activated even if it is somewhat unexpected. Similarly, it is shown that an expected word will be activated when if presented in dim light. Of course, if both sensory and contextual features are detected, then the word is easily detected. So both, the sum of the point is that both the contextual and the sensory If they both are detected, then a word is easily detected. The cohort model. Now, according to this model is specifically designed to account for auditory word recognition. It has recognition point and word initial cohort. Now, this was introduced by Marsland Wilson, and according to this model, it has been noticed several aspects of spoken word recognition that needed to be accounted for in a model of lexical access. So, what happens is that first listeners recognize words very rapidly, perhaps within 200 to 250 milliseconds of the beginning of word. Second, listeners are sensitive to the recognition point, the point at which the word diverges from other possible words. Now, according to Marsland, spoken word recognition occurs in 3 stages. First, on the basis of acoustic phonetic analysis of the input, which is a set of lexical candidate. This set is referred to word initial cohort. And second, one member of the cohort is selected for further analysis. Finally, the selected lexical item is integrated into the ongoing semantic and syntactic context. So first, you have the recognition point, then you have word initial cohort, which leads it to the further area, which is basically consists of semantic and syntactic context. For example, upon hearing a sentence, Angela misplaced her ba, and then you have to complete. You will have bag, bat, bath, base. All these words can come into your mind, and based on your processing, you need to, or contextual features, you would come up with the words which can match to ba, maybe bag, maybe s, or bath, bat, etc. So to conclude, the cohort model in some ways captures the best features of the search and luggage model. Like the luggage model, but unlike the search model, the cohort model assumes that multiple word candidates are processed in parallel.